They say the dead linger where they are remembered. But what happens when they refuse to be forgotten? This is not a story of haunted castles or abandoned asylums. This is the story of a home just like yours. A place where life unfolds in ordinary ways, morning coffee, late-night television, the quiet comfort of routine. But beneath the normalcy, something watches. Something waits. I never believed in ghosts. Not until the night I realized I was no longer alone in my own home. The first time it happened, I was alone. It was late, past midnight, but I was still awake, scrolling mindlessly through my phone in bed. The house was silent except for the occasional creak of the old wooden floors settling. Outside, the street was empty, the world wrapped in the hush of early morning. Then came the knock. 3 soft, deliberate taps against the bedroom door. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I lived alone. For a long moment, I did nothing. My ears strained against the silence. Was it the house shifting? A trick of the wind? Then, again, 3 slow knocks. I turned toward the door. My phone screen bathed the room in cold blue light, but beyond the faint glow, everything was cloaked in shadows. The air felt heavier, like the room itself was holding its breath. I swallowed hard. Hello. My voice came out quieter than I intended. No answer. I sat up, my pulse hammering. The door was closed, just as I had left it. My mind raced through logical explanations. Maybe I hadn't locked the front door, maybe someone had broken in, but deep down, I knew that wasn't it. Because the sound hadn't come from the hallway. It had come from inside my room. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The silence after the knock stretched too long, pressing against my ears like a weight. My mind churned through every possible explanation, but none of them made sense. The bedroom door was shut. Locked. There was no way anyone could be inside. And yet, the knock had come from within. I reached for my bedside lamp with trembling fingers and flicked it on. A pool of yellow light pushed the darkness back, but the relief was fleeting. Shadows still clung to the corners of the room, stretching and shifting like something was hiding just beyond my sight. "Who's there?" I whispered. Nothing. I forced myself to get up, my legs unsteady beneath me. Every instinct screamed at me to stay in bed, to pull the covers over my head like a child, but I needed to prove to myself that I was alone. I took slow steps toward the door, my breath shallow. My own reflection in the dresser mirror startled me, my pale face and wide eyes making me look like a ghost myself. I hesitated, staring at my reflection for a second too long. Then I heard it. A whisper. Low. Close. Right behind me. I spun so fast I nearly lost my balance. But there was nothing there. The room was empty. Sleep was impossible after that. I left the lamp on and sat upright in bed, clutching my phone like a lifeline, scrolling mindlessly through nonsense just to distract myself. By the time my alarm went off at 7, I convinced myself I had imagined it. Half asleep, brain playing tricks on me. That was all. But the uneasy feeling lingered. As I went about my morning routine, showering, making coffee, feeding the cat, I kept glancing over my shoulder. The apartment felt different. It wasn't just the silence, it was the sensation that someone was standing just outside my peripheral vision. Watching. At work, I shook it off. Lack of sleep, I told myself. Stress. Overactive imagination. And then, that night, it happened again. I had just turned off the TV in the living room when I saw it. A shape. A figure. Standing in the hallway. Not moving. Not breathing. Just there. The shadows swallowed most of its form, but I could make out something tall, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. its arms hanging slack at its sides. I didn't move. I couldn't. Then, slowly, so slowly, I saw it lean forward. Just a fraction. As if acknowledging me. I flipped the light switch. The hallway was empty. But the feeling remained. Something was in my home. And it was getting closer. I didn't sleep that night. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward me. Every sound felt like a breath too close to my ear. I kept the lights on, pacing the apartment, trying to rationalize what I'd seen. Maybe I'd been overworked. Maybe I needed a break. But deep down, I knew. Something was in my home. And it wasn't leaving. By morning, I felt like a hollow version of myself. Dark circles framed my eyes, and my thoughts were sluggish, heavy. Work felt like a distant memory. I called in sick and spent the day researching hauntings, sleep paralysis, anything that could explain what was happening. That evening, exhaustion weighed me down. I told myself I needed to sleep, that I was making this worse by not resting. I turned off the lights, climbed into bed, and forced myself to close my eyes. I had almost drifted off when my phone rang. The sudden sound jolted me awake. I grabbed it off the nightstand and squinted at the screen. Unknown caller. A cold dread slithered down my spine. I hesitated, then answered. Hello. At first, nothing. Just static, faint and crackling. Then, a whisper. Low. Distorted. Right inside my ear. Let me in. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, the screen still glowing. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I stared at it, my breath coming in short gasps. The call ended on its own. I didn't pick the phone back up that night. By the next morning, I was unraveling. I couldn't pretend this wasn't happening anymore. The knocking. The whispers. The figure in the hallway. Something was inside my home. I decided to leave. A hotel, a friend's place, anywhere but here. I packed a bag in a hurry, my hands shaking, my mind screaming at me to move faster. That's when I saw the door. A door that had never been there before. It was at the end of the hallway, opposite my bedroom. A simple wooden door, painted the same off-white as the others. But I knew my apartment. I'd lived here for years. There was no room there. There had never been a door there. I stepped closer, pulse hammering. The air around it felt wrong, thick, heavy. Like stepping into a pressure change. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob. A whisper. From the other side. Let me in. The same voice from the phone. I staggered back. My breath shuddering out of me. The doorknob twitched. Something was trying to open it from the inside. I ran. I didn't pack. I didn't stop. I grabbed my keys, yanked open my front door. And fled into the night. I didn't look back. I checked into a hotel across the city, my hands still shaking as I handed over my credit card. The receptionist gave me a strange look. Probably noticing how pale I was, how wide my eyes were, but I didn't care. I just needed a locked door between me and whatever was in that apartment. The room was small but clean. Safe. Or so I thought. That night, as I lay in the unfamiliar bed, exhaustion finally catching up to me, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown caller. I turned the screen face down. Ignored it. A minute later, another buzz. Then another. Then, 3 slow knocks on the hotel door. I covered my mouth to stifle a scream. I wasn't home. It had followed me. I didn't move. The knocks came again. 3 slow, deliberate taps. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers, my breath shallow. My reflection in the black screen looked wrong, distorted, too pale. I turned it over and checked the time. 3:12 a.m. Another knock. Louder this time. I forced myself to stand. My legs felt like dead weight, my body screaming at me to stay in bed. To pretend I hadn't heard it. But I had. And ignoring it wouldn't make it go away. I crept to the door. Pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. Holding my breath, I reached for the peephole. Slowly. Carefully, I looked through. The hallway outside was empty. No footsteps. No shadows. Nothing. I exhaled shakily and stepped back. Maybe it had been a prank, another guest knocking on the wrong door. Maybe I was imagining things. Then I saw it. Across the room, in the hotel's full-length mirror. A figure. Standing directly behind me. It was tall and thin. Its skin stretched too tight over its bones, its head tilted at that unnatural angle I had seen before. Its mouth hung open, as if caught mid-silent scream. But the worst part? It wasn't facing me. It was facing the mirror. And it was watching me through the reflection. My body reacted before my mind could. I spun around, gasping, my arms raised defensively. But the room was empty. I turned back to the mirror. My own reflection stared back at me, wide-eyed, panting. The figure was gone. I didn't sleep. I didn't even turn off the lights. I sat on the edge of the bed. Gripping my phone, my gaze flicking between the door and the mirror, waiting for something, anything, to happen again. But the night stretched on in tense, unbearable silence. By morning, the rational part of my mind tried to reason through it. A hallucination. A waking nightmare. Lack of sleep playing tricks on me. I wanted to believe it. But deep down, I knew better. I left the hotel before noon, heading to a cafe nearby just to be around other people. The normalcy of life outside felt surreal, people laughing, sipping coffee. Going about their day as if the world hadn't just cracked open around me. I considered calling someone, my best friend, maybe, or even a priest, but what would I say? That a door appeared in my apartment. That a thing was following me. Instead, I decided to go back. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to. The apartment felt dead when I walked in. Not empty. Dead. The air was stale, unmoving. The silence was thick, pressing. Dust motes floated in the dim afternoon light. It felt as though no one had lived here in years. I walked slowly. Each step hesitant. Nothing had changed. My shoes were still by the door, my coffee mug from 2 days ago still sitting in the sink. But it felt abandoned. As if the life had been drained from it. My eyes drifted to the hallway. The door was still there. Waiting. A sick feeling curled in my stomach. The doorknob was different now, darker, like metal left out in the rain too long. Rusted. Almost rotted. I didn't want to get closer. But I had to. I reached out. My fingers barely grazed the surface when the door yanked inward. A void. No room, no walls. Just darkness. Deep, swallowing. Bottomless screen. Its eyes, hollow, endless pits of black. And worst of all, it looked exactly like me. It reached out. And pulled me in. I woke up in my bed. The morning sun filtered through the curtains. Birds chirped outside. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a message from my coworker, asking if I was feeling better. Had it all been a nightmare? I sat up slowly. My body felt different, lighter, somehow. As if something had been removed. I stood, stretched. Walked to the mirror. And I smiled. But I didn't move. My reflection did. And in its hollow, black eyes, I saw the thing that had taken my place.